Hey guys, Darren here. Welcome to Mayhem Country Living. Want to go over a couple of things with you now that everybody has had their say about all the things that are going on with the substations, damage occurring at these substations and everything. I, in a official capacity, one thing that I do as an infrared thermographer is I inspect, or I have inspected a lot of substations in very, very remote rural locations here in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia a little bit, Tennessee not so much. Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, usually offers free inspections if you have any of their equipment, so they do that. Alabama Power does not. As well as doing infrared and vibration analysis for Colonial Pipeline, all the way up from the coast, all the way up to corner where Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee converge right there. So I know a little bit about these, having gone in and inspected equipment. I'm going to spin you around and show you this is some of the stuff that I do with my infrared thermography. And I'll go into more of my thoughts and considerations after I just show you a little bit about what I do. More to come. Okay, guys, now we're back. This is a report that I generated. I was going to say this was back in 2019. This is one particular plant that I'd gone to that had substations in remote locations through the southeast. I will show you just kind of an example of how I use the infrared, my thermal imaging equipment in these areas, and I also would go into them on occasion and check PLC panels and stuff like that. Power boxes, let's call them power boxes, and transformers on the ground. The big green things that hum and are warm that we all used to lay on top of when we were kids. Okay, those big things with fins on one side. That, and don't let your kids do that. Those things are terrible, and they can cause cancer, certain types. Anyway, you'll notice, and these lines are offset because I have enlarged it. It's not because of poor reporting. It's just because of resolution issues with this. This is a transformer. It's on top of a pole. You can see that there's a disconnect switch right there. And this is coming directly out of a substation, it looks like, from the hardware. These are the pole transformers, one and another, and these are insulators. They have all kinds of names for them, and for this video, that's what we're going to call them. And you can see this one right here. I do a comparative analysis of these things. We're showing a temperature increase of 150 degrees. Ambient temperature that day was 37. It was in January, 37 degrees. And then the second for comparison was 59.5 degrees. So we have almost 100-degree difference. This is a very hot spot. This is like a level 1 alarm. This is an OLJ is what we call it. Oh, Lordy Jesus. Because you don't want to be around it, because that thing could pop. And by pop, I mean explode. These things are full of oil, a cooling oil that I believe it used to be all PCBs. Depending, they say they've cleaned it up and refined it and mitigated the risk of PCB cancers. I don't know, because I still saw a lot of PCB stuff as of 2019. And yes, I know you're not supposed to have that anymore, but the way it is. So this is one of the things I do. I also go into the ones that have actual moving equipment, and I do predictive analysis on the rotating equipment that's in there. Think fans, motors, pumps, blah, blah, blah. Now, we're going to get out of here and head down into the bunker, and we will finish this report or video. But I just wanted for you guys to have a frame of reference. This is one of hundreds of reports that I generated. This is for a Georgia Pacific plant that is no longer in process. So, more to come. Okay, guys, now we're back. And I'm going to go over some of my thoughts. And I believe I have a much more informed opinion than a lot of people because I have worked in that area. So these are my thoughts. I talked to someone. I don't want to mention names or anything, but I've talked to someone, and we've bounced some ideas back and forth. And I want to tell him thank you, because this is what kind of decided to make me go ahead and do this video. Because I ran it by him, and he says, "Why not? Why don't do it?" So, oh yeah, and my chicken coffee cup. I think these attacks are probed attacks. I think they are attacks to find response times and strength of response. This time of year, fall, winter, is ideal for this kind of thing to occur, because you have the excuse of people on public hunting land, which a lot of these remote, I mean really remote ones are, substations are, that make them ideal threats. For example, I used to drive, and I would inspect 6 substations, and it would take me about 8 hours to drive out there. And I was requested unofficially to travel armed whenever I would go to these places, just because you're out there. It's so remote. In the deep south, coastal south, they would say, "What time are you going out there?" I'm trying to get out there at X amount of time. They say, "Well, watch for gators. You know, don't stand near a gator slide and admire, you know, the beautiful swamp. Get out there, get your job done, get back. You know, watch for gators, watch for snakes, spiders, stingy stuff." Never had a problem with people per se. I ran into a lot of hunters, and that's one thing I wanted to bring up. If I was going to do something along these lines and be nefarious, one thing I would go in is under the guise of a hunter who is out either on public land where it is legal to be, or trespassing, either or. A lot of hunting clubs have permits that back up to these, and these companies make a little bit of spending money, and they also share goodwill to the community by allowing people to hunt on these things for a fee, you know, safely, of course. Under the guise of scouting for hunting or hunting, you can get up to the fence, hold on to the fence if you wanted to. Most of the ones that I have looked at and gone out and inspected, at that time, Wi-Fi really wasn't that good for these rural areas, so there wasn't Wi-Fi to speak of for surveillance, but they did have wired cameras that ran. I think a utility company has the money to run 30 miles of wire for surveillance cameras. They have the money to do that. The thought of someone breaking in to damage a substation, to me, is what smacks of amateurish, because on a nice hill, on a good day with no wind and a scoped rifle, I can pretty much destroy a substation. Not even talking about damaging the transformers themselves, it's just destroying the insulators. That's what, and I read a little bit of the stuff, and this is just me throwing out as much information as I have, and I've actually talked to a couple of more official people about this, and they said, well, yeah, that maybe not. Who knows? I don't. I'm not a cop. Never been in the military. This is just stuff that I think of. I think, again, it was a probing attack. I think it was amateurish because there's no need to open a gate when you can do it from a distance. If I had done something like that, there sure would not be a cell phone or a way to triangulate, to ping anything. Everything would be stuck in a Faraday bag or disabled to the point where it would not work at all. Trackers, low jack stuff on your vehicles and everything. So that is my thought. There is not enough law enforcement or police presence, military presence, National Guard to put a man at each substation. There's just not. And feed them, clothe them, pay them. There's not. So that will never be a thing. One of the things in some of the stuff that I've read years ago, as a younger man, was supposed to have been used as a form of guerrilla tactics in industrialized settings. Industrialized settings, think of the fact that if I destroyed substations at a power generating plant, ingoing, outgoing, step up or step down transformers, or an ore refinery, think of like a U.S. Steel or a foundry, something like that. You disrupt enough power or water, that's going to be another big concern. You destroy enough power or water, they cannot make steel, make iron, make electricity. And that thing goes down. Now, what happens when that steel mill, let's say, when that steel mill would go down, the molten ore that is inside all of, we call them pig ovens, inside that was softening up or warming up all the pig iron to be refined. All the pig iron, smelters, all the foundries, the refiners, everything hardens. Hundreds of millions of dollars for industrial costs right there. That is not including man time, man hours to do it. That is equipment that is not easily purchased. They just don't make it. A lot of the stuff I work on was manufactured in the 20s and has been maintained religiously by craftsman mechanics to continue to run to this day. 80 and 90-year-old pieces of equipment that are meticulously maintained would no longer work. And there is nobody that knows how to rebuild these things. This is what we're talking about in industry. You don't even hear about that part. But this is also what we are talking about in the electrical grid. We're working with an antiquated system that is pieced together with bubble gum and prayer and a lot of good hard-working men and women. That is the only real thing that's keeping all this thing going. I imagine that this will continue to pop up now that it has been brought to a lot of people's attention. I could say a lot more, but I'm not going to. And no, I've never done any of this nefarious stuff. Now, remind you, I have not said anything about the stuff that they've been talking about, damaging the transformers on the ground and everything. This is all on the high tension power lines themselves. Excuse me. With a good high powered rifle, large caliber, it can be done from a distance. I would have 2 or 3 people during hunting season, and I would have time shooting to shoot as close together as possible. That way, because shooting once or twice during hunting season is normal, is acceptable. Shooting 8 or 9 times during hunting season, that is remarkable, and that makes people remember and think. So, again, I think there is an air of amateurish ability to it. But I think these attacks will become more refined. That's just my thought, my 2 cents worth. Again, like I said, I could talk a lot more about it. Email me if you wanna talk about it. And I'm not concerned about people knowing what I do and what I've done and how I know these things. I have alibis, so I'm not concerned about that. Thank you very much. And I'm a good frame of mind, so I don't feel like getting suicided. Again, this is just my ideas and my thoughts as to what is happening. Comment, please. Call me a quack or an idiot or whatever, or give me a thought, insight. Anybody else who is in the industry, comment below. Let me know what you think. One other thing, I have nothing to base this off of at all, other than my spidey sense, just something. Is this related to the people who were learning how to destroy things with the Georgia Guidestones? Because that was a bunch of amateur stuff as well. Just off what little I know. It was, well, we'll leave it at that. I hope you guys find this interesting. Again, comment below, thoughts, everything as always. We'll leave it at that. Take care of you people, guys.